Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews Podcast. I'm your host Matthew Pejkovic and this is episode number 269. Awards season is now upon us, which means Talking Oscars is back to cover all things Oscars and more this 2019-2020 awards season. Joining me now is film critic, movie analyst and Talking Oscars co-host Shane A. Bassett. Shane, I thank you very much for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks again, Matt, for having me on. Love talking movies and especially awards with you. But it's now like about 3 weeks until the Golden Globes drop. So can't wait. It's absolutely, everything's all about Christmas at the moment. But early in the new year is when we've got Globes.
And it's funny you mentioned Golden Globes. We had the nominations not that long ago. Nominations for the Globes and the SAGs as well. And I mentioned last week when we ended our podcast, when we talked about our lead actor predictions, that this is the time now where we're going to see, narratives forming. We're going to see who's in, who's out, and we're looking at these last bunch of nominations that have come out. We are seeing some actors not making it in there, some directors sneaking in, and it's going to be really fascinating to start talking about this stuff now.
Yeah, exactly. I've got a few surprises and snubs that I suppose we might clash with, but honestly, it's a mixed bag, and it's typical of the Golden Globes. You never really know what you're going to get. It's all about, I hate to say it, but the parties and the campaigning when it comes to Golden Globes and the foreign press.
Yep, definitely. They love their celebs, and sometimes it does influence who they nominate. So speaking of which, what we'll do, Shane, you and I, we're going to go through the Golden Globes first. So everyone out there listening, we are just going to focus on the nominees that we usually do predictions for, which is the acting categories, directing, and picture. So we won't be talking about score or foreign film or anything else, anything like that. These are what we're going to focus on. And what I will do, Shane, is I will go through a category, I'll read the nominees, and then you and I will react with our surprises and our snubs. How does that sound to you?
Sounds like a plan.
Excellent. Okay, so now let's begin with the Golden Globes for Best Supporting Actress. So we have Kathy Bates for Richard Jewell, Annette Bening for The Report, Laura Dern for Marriage Story, Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers, and Margot Robbie for Bombshell. Shane, how about you go first? Tell me about, from those nominees, what nominee surprised you?
Well, I haven't seen it yet, and I'm hanging to. So Kathy Bates in Richard Jewell for a start. I mean, that's a huge one because I don't even think it's just been released in the US, and there hasn't been a lot of talk about it, but the critics have been raving. So I'm assuming that because the Oscars vote a little differently, it might have a big impact with the Oscars coming up. But I'm happy with that. So that's a little bit of a surprise. You mentioned Annette Bening, how good she was for a possible Oscar nomination. So I'm really glad to see her name there. But no, the other three, Laura, Jennifer, and Margot, no surprises there. And I can't really think of any snubs. Quite often, I'm happy to say that most of the time the Golden Globes get it right.
I'm going to agree with you in regards to Kathy Bates, because I remember like last week we talked about Richard Jewell was saying that it's about the drop in the States, and we're going to see what that film's going to do in regards to the awards race. Look, box office wise, the film had actually one of, if not the lowest opening in the directing career of Clint Eastwood, and I think some of that might have to do with there's no kind of like big star attached to the film. Previous films, there was always like a Bradley Cooper, etc. that Clint Eastwood had, or star himself, for example. But you are correct in regards to the response critically. It's got some really good reviews out there. Some people are saying it's some of the strongest work that Clint Eastwood has put out there. And Kathy Bates getting a nomination for that film. I haven't seen the film. It's not coming out here in Australia until February. It doesn't surprise me though, because Kathy Bates is an Oscar winner. She's been nominated a slew of times at the Globes and the Oscars and numerous other awards bodies as well. She's a terrific actor. So it doesn't surprise me whatsoever that she got a nomination. But it's interesting to see that she did get that nom, because now we're going to see exactly what type of impact Richard Jewell could have. And while I was thinking perhaps it could be for lead actor, I think it's the more clear path is the supporting actress path.
Oh, I think so. Yeah, very good. And Jennifer Lopez, to me, I thought she was more of a lead. To me, But
Yep.
I mean, she's getting touted in all the award ceremonies as a supporting. So that's fair enough. I kind of guess that a snub, if you think about it, could be Cats. I mean, it's screened, and it's a lot of females in that cast, and they love their musicals.
Yep.
As we know, the Golden Globes. So that is a minor sort of snub and surprise in one, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, see, Cats was another one of those films, like I wanted to see what the Globes did with that one, because that film is Globes territory right there, I think.
Exactly, yeah.
And to see that it got like nothing at all.
It got a song.
A song?
It was the song only, yeah.
There we go. I mean, I think that's really going to speak volumes. I mean, I'm watching the film tomorrow night. We got the premiere in Sydney tomorrow, so I'm really interested to see what this film is all about, because everyone's talked about the trailer and everything else. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what Cats does when it releases. Clearly not going to do much in regards to awards, with exception of that song nomination there. I wanted to talk about a snub though. You and I have both seen Little Women. I absolutely adored the film. I loved it. Florence Pugh, I thought was terrific in the movie. She's had a really strong year. Midsummer was another movie as well that she was in. She's going to be in Black Widow next year, so her star is ascending, and I thought that she was really great in the movie. It's kind of bummed me out that she didn't get a nomination for it, because she gave a really strong performance in that film, and I was hoping that Little Women would make some type of mark on the awards season, but as clearly seen both in the Globes and later we're going to talk in SAGs, it looks like that's going to be a film that might be left on the wayside.
Yeah, we'll get to Greta Gerwig a little bit later, but I agree. I'm not gushing over it as much as you, but I certainly loved it. Like, don't get me wrong. I like the tweaks without giving too much away to the original source. And there's been so many other Little Women films and television series. I'm really glad they have gone in a few different angles. But not only Florence Pugh, but I mean, it is just a hand-picked perfect cast. I mean, you could even Meryl Streep. Yep. She's Meryl Streep, and she didn't get a nomination. So I loved it all round, but not quite as much as you. I thought it had a few little flaws, but overall, it is a little bit of a snub that Florence didn't get nominated, especially. And I mean, she didn't get nominated for Midsummer either, and she was one of my top picks for the lead. Yeah,
I think it's just one of those things with horror movies, and I think you and I are going to talk about a specific actress later in regards to horror movies performances that just don't really break through as strong as they deserve to be, well, I think anyway. Let's move over now to the Best Supporting Actor category. So it starts off with Tom Hanks for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. You have Anthony Hopkins for Two Popes. Al Pacino for The Irishman. He's joined by Joe Pesci, also from The Irishman. And then you have Brad Pitt for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. From those noms there, what surprises have you got from that category?
No surprises. Honestly, they've got it right, I think. I haven't seen The Two Popes. Have you seen it, Matt?
No. There was screenings at the Ritz and Dendy last week. I just didn't get a chance to see it, but it is coming out this week on Netflix, though, so I'm really looking forward to watching it.
Yeah, it's one I missed too, a screening of, but I'll catch it on the small screen, so to speak, Netflix. So, look, Anthony Hopkins, I hear from all reports, is pretty awesome, and so he should be. He's Anthony Hopkins. But I can't. A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood I have not seen. I am catching it this week. There is a screening for media from Sony, so I am seeing it. However, Tom Hanks is pretty much good in anything. Yep. I love him in almost anything. And the fact he didn't get nominated for Captain Phillips that time, I always like to bring up, because he really did deserve that one.
He did, yep.
And I don't really know this Mr. Rogers guy that he's playing. Like, I don't know the history. It's a very American thing. But I look forward to it. I'm glad he's there. The other three, Brad, Joe, and Al Pacino, I can't question them three. So I've got no surprises or snubs for this category.
I think the only thing I was kind of surprised by was the two nods for The Irishman. Sometimes, there can be kind of like, a bit of, competitive kind of like edge there. One guy might bounce off the other. But I think we've seen lately, especially in supporting actor supporting characters, that the opportunity is there for multiple performances to be nominated for this one film. Last year we saw The Favourite with Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone in the supporting category there for the Oscars, and I'm pretty sure that Three Billboards also had that with Sam Rockwell and Woody Harrelson as well. So we're seeing more and more of that, which is, I think, is pretty great actually. I mean, if you've got a great cast and it's got a handful of supporting turns that are really exceptional, why should one get nominated over the other when you can have both in there? The only thing I think is close to a snub, and I'm not too hot on it, but because it is the Golden Globes. But I always thought that Willem Dafoe might have an in with The Lighthouse. He's got really good reviews for it. He's been out there promoting the film. He's a multi-time nominee. Maybe that's more, I think that film and that performance is going to be more a thing for like Indie Spirit Awards. He did get nominated there, etc. Maybe the Oscars might still have a soft spot for him. He's been nominated several times before, but that's the only thing I can think of in regards to a snub. Pretty much everyone else in that category nominated deserves to be there. And actually, I don't know about you, Shane, but do you think that maybe what we're seeing here with these 5 nominees could be what we see when it comes to the Oscar nominations?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've got it right. I know what you're saying in a sense, but I think Al Pacino and Joe Pesci are miles apart in the movie. Al can't win. He does a lot of yelling in it. And Joe is just amazing. It's such a great comeback film in a way. But you know what? And we'll get to it, because Robert De Niro hasn't been nominated through previous, I would guess, circumstances, his history with the Golden Globe Awards and his outspokenness, I think what they've done is just thrown in Al and Joe to make up for it. And I know that sounds really bad, but that could be something that they've done to soften it a bit for Martin Scorsese, maybe. I don't know, because I know they do have, the Hollywood Foreign Press do have a problem with Robert De Niro.
Interesting. We are going to touch on that again when we get to the lead category. Speaking of which, let's move over now to Best Actress in a Musical or Comedy. So first off, we got Ana de Armas from Knives Out. We have Awkwafina from The Farewell, Kate Blanchett from Where'd You Go, Bernadette, Beanie Feldstein from Booksmart, and Emma Thompson from Late Night. Now, I think this one's chock-a-block full of surprises, because this category though does have opportunity for surprises, because it's such a broad spectrum comedy musical, and a lot of these names won't get mentioned much during award season, which focuses more on dramatic performances. So, what about you, Shane? What sort of surprises do you have for this category?
All but one is a surprise. Awkwafina for The Farewell is not a surprise.
Right.
Every one of the others is. I mean, okay, Emma Thompson, Late Night, she was pretty good. Beanie, I was so happy to see that, but no chance of winning. Kate Blanchett, there's a movie that came and went. It got briefly released in Australia.
Yep.
I happened to see it at the film festival, luckily enough, but it disappeared. So when her name was read out, I was so stoked, being an advocate for Aussie actors, of course. And then Ana de Armas, she's a star of the future. I know she's been in some good stuff, and we've highlighted her in the past, I think, from memory. And I really liked her in Blade Runner, of course, 2019. Wasn't it? 2029?
2049. 2049.
Sorry, getting my years mixed up. So that's so great to see her. And Knives Out in general was such a great film. But this is all a surprise to me, this one, this category. And good for them. They've mixed it up, and that's made it very interesting. But, of course, I would love to see Kate Blanchett win, being an Aussie.
I think the biggest surprise I had was that the Golden Globes were smart enough not to nominate Renee Zellweger in the musical category for Judy. I was kind of like hoping they would, because I kind of predicted it might happen, but they were smart enough not to do that, even though she does sing in the film. It's not a musical per se and doesn't belong in this category, and good on them.
Very surprised. Yeah. You're right. I think that is a smart move. I was surprised when that didn't happen.
And the Kate Blanchett one was definitely a surprise, because, like you said, Where'd You Go, Bernadette, not only did it disappear in cinemas here in Australia, but in the States as well. It's a film directed by Richard Linklater, who's an Oscar-nominated director, who's an indie darling. But the film made hardly anything at the box office, and also critics-wise, it's actually got quite a low score by a lot of critics out there. So I'm very surprised to see that performance in there from that movie, and I think this is going to go back to what we were talking about at the start in regards to the Golden Globes. They love their celebs, and I think Cate Blanchett might have been nominated more for the fact that she's Cate Blanchett than the performance she gave in that movie.
I hate agreeing with you, I really do, but yeah, that could be a factor, a big factor, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the critics and the foreign press did think that movie was worthy enough, even though they probably saw it a long time ago, unless they got screeners and saw it recently. But you just don't know. I am happy for her, but you're right. What did you think of Beanie? I mean, I think Booksmart's in my top 10 for 2019, but is she worthy? I mean, they were both great, both actresses in that film, but do you think she's worthy to be part of the 5?
I think that considering the category that it is, and that Booksmart most definitely belongs in that category, and she gave a great performance in it, and Booksmart, like you said, was one of the best movies and not one of the best comedies of the year. Most definitely she did belong to be in there. She's also one of those actors as well that's kind of burgeoning as well. She's been in a few films. She's in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood though for a very, very, very short amount of time. Non-speaking role. She just appears. I think she might be playing Mama Cass at a party, but I'm not 100% sure. But she definitely deserved to be there. But there were a couple other names as well that I thought deserved to be there more than say Cate Blanchett. One of them is Jamie Bell, who was terrific in Brittany Runs a Marathon. That was a movie that was directed by Amazon Studios. It had a release here. It had a bit of a press tour here as well. She's terrific in that movie. And
Gillian Bell?
Gillian Bell, very sorry. Yes, Gillian Bell. Yes.
Oh, that's all right. We'll be talking about Rocket Man and Jamie Bell later.
Yes, Gillian Bell, my apologies. But she was terrific in Brittany Runs a Marathon. And also, I didn't like the film Long Shot, but Charlize Theron really surprised me with just how astute she was as a comedic performer in that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
And I was kind of surprised that considering, what we were saying before about Celebrity and Golden Globes, that she wasn't nominated for that, as well as Bombshell, which we'll talk about later enough for sure. But those were two performances that I thought that was looked over for this category, which is a shame. But like you said, this category is open to many surprises, and we've seen a lot of them.
Yeah, actually, I had Charlize on my mind, but not for the movie you're talking about she did with Seth Rogen. Yeah, Long Shot. I was more thinking Bombshell because I only just recently saw that and absolutely loved it.
Yep.
And she's so good in it. But yeah, I think she could have made the list, definitely. But I liked the movie more than you did too. I know that you thought it was pretty pedestrian and you had a lot to say about Seth Rogen at the time it was released. But I liked it. But yeah, I think she could have done it. But is The Farewell a comedy as well? That's another one. That's another mysterious one. But she's very good in it, Awkwafina. I like her a lot.
Let's move on now to Best Actor in a Musical Comedy. So Daniel Craig for Knives Out, Roman Griffin Davis for Jojo Rabbit, Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Taron Egerton for Rocketman, and Eddie Murphy for Dolomite Is My Name. What surprises did you get from that category, Shane?
Well, Daniel Craig, definitely, because no Robert De Niro. I would say either Roman Griffin Davis or Daniel Craig. Oh, no, well, obviously Roman. Actually, I'll take that back because Irishman is not a musical or comedy. But Daniel Craig is definitely my biggest surprise. I wasn't too sure about Roman Griffith Davis because the movie Jojo Rabbit actually left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth. Yep. I don't think it was that great. He was good in it, though. He was very good. So they're my only two surprises. I'm really happy, though, and it's not a surprise, but I do want to mention I'm happy that Taron got the nod because we were worried that it was an early film, it released so long ago they might forget about it. But he's been campaigning, as we said, continuously, and I'm so stoked he got the nom. And Eddie Murphy, he's just, that's great to see. That gives him one little step forward to an Oscar nomination, maybe.
I was surprised with the Daniel Craig nomination as well, but it was a very happy surprise. I thought his performance in Knives Out was terrific. He really has proved himself. We talked about Logan Lucky as well, and just how he's coming on as a comedic performer. I think he's really trying to broaden his horizons. He's got the one last Bond film. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see more of him doing like more out there kind of performances just to try to establish himself outside of the whole kind of Bond image and Bond canon. And Knives Out does a really good job in doing so. Roman Griffith Davis, I'm also surprised by. I've also seen Jojo Rabbit, saw it last Monday. I was also underwhelmed by the film. And look, he's fine in the movie, but we were talking about snubs for this category. There's a great movie that came out earlier. Actually, in the States, it was early in the year. In Australia, it came out in October. It's called Blinded by the Light. It's kind of like a jukebox musical based on the songs of Bruce Springsteen.
It was a good movie.
Great film set in the 80s of London over a Pakistani family. And the lead actor, Vivek Kara, he was terrific in that role. I mean, if you're talking about comedy musical, this movie was made for that category. And it was a terrific film, and I thought his performance was terrific. And it would have been great to see him in that category, even though clearly I know critics liked the film, but a lot of people didn't see it as much as I hoped they would outside of the UK. I wanted to talk about, you mentioned Awkwafina in regards to The Farewell, whether that's a comedy. Leonardo DiCaprio from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I got a problem with that film being labelled a comedy. What about you, Shane?
Yeah, no, I agree. It's it has its comedic moments, but this happens every year with the Golden Globes. We always go back to The Martian being a comedy. Yeah. But I'm with you on that. I don't really like the fact that Once Upon a Time is in the comedy category.
No, I don't either. And I think it's a bit of a, I want to say scandalous, but the movie revolves around one of the darkest days in the history of Hollywood. And I know like it's a Tarantino film, and there are moments in Tarantino films where dialogue-wise especially, it can be comedic to a certain degree. Not comedic in intent, but like it just kind of comes off sometimes as funny just in a way, he puts his dialogue together and how the actors kind of, deliver it as such. But as a comedy, I guess at times it's light. It has kind of like a light feel to it, but the comedy aspect, no, I don't think so. But, not to say that DiCaprio doesn't deserve to be nominated or anything, but for that category, I don't know. I'm just not going for it.
No, I totally agree. I can't add to that because I love the film. It is easily, I've seen it like 5 times now, including the extended version once, and I loved it. So it's a bit of a shame. Maybe it's got more of a chance to win in the musical comedy, and I don't know if Tarantino himself would, totally agree on that category, but be that as it may, it's in the mix.
I think there's going to be a lot of fodder for Ricky Gervais to make fun of as well in regards to the
I'm looking forward to hearing him. I know he's misogynist and he's politically incorrect, and a lot of people are against it, but seriously, I'm looking forward to it. I hate to say it. I think he's going to be funny.
I think he's going to be a hoot as well. Let's move over now to Best Actress in a Drama. So it starts off with Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Saoirse Ronan for Little Women, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, and Renee Zellweger for Judy. When I look at this category, I think this is, perhaps with the exception of one nominee, as close to a lock for all these names that you can get. Shane, when you look at this category, any surprises whatsoever? Are you or are you and I almost in sync here?
Yeah, we're in sync. I haven't seen Harriet still, but I love Cynthia Erivo, who obviously I highlighted last year when she was in that great film at the Hotel Royale. Can't even remember the long name of it now, but that was so good. This is good. I just think it's really hard. I mean, I've been saying a long time, Renee Zellweger for Judy is a lock, and I was saying that all last year for Glenn Close, and look what happened at the Oscars. So having seen Bombshell and Little Women recent in my mind, and then Marriage Story a month or so ago, it's a really strong category. I'm loving it.
I think one name that kind of was not so much a surprise that didn't get nominated, but it's a shame that she didn't get nominated, was Lupita Nyong'o for Us. I think last week we talked about her performance and just how. No, the week before that. Sorry, you brought it up as one of your picks for.
She is a snub. Yeah.
I mean, it's just a terrific turn. It really is, and she's had a great year. She was in Us. She was in Little Monsters. Two very different performances, both horror movies, but very different horror movies. But just, playing dual roles in a way she did in Us in such a unique way, such a memorable way. It's a shame that the Globes couldn't see that category for what it is. But then again, I'm pretty sure they didn't nominate Toni Collette for Hereditary either, and I think she gave the best performance that year as well.
They did not nominate Toni, and Lupita was one of my snubs in this category. But the SAGs, which we'll get to a little bit later, did pick up on that.
They most definitely did. Okay, let's move over now to Best Actor in a Drama. Christian Bale for Ford versus Ferrari, Antonio Banderas for Pain and Glory, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Joaquin Phoenix for Joker, and Jonathan Pryce for The Two Popes. Now, as soon as I saw this category, there were a couple of names that really just stood out to me. I was like, wow, I didn't see that coming. But Shane, how about you? You go first and talk about your surprises for this category.
Surprise was no Robert De Niro, but that when I remembered and looked into the history of his... he's not had a great lot to say about the Hollywood foreign press. He's blasted them in the past. So that is, to me, why he hasn't been nominated. I haven't seen The Two Popes, but I do believe that Jonathan Pryce is amazing in it, and he was great in The Wife last year, and he's a great actor. He didn't play a very good Bond villain, I've got to say, when he was a James Bond villain.
Which one was that? Was that Tomorrow Never Dies?
Tomorrow Never Dies. That is the one. But that said, Christian Bale is my surprise.
Yep.
And snub, of course, is Robert De Niro. But I love Christian Bale. And do you think he probably went to any parties to campaign for this movie? Of course he didn't. They just love him.
Yep.
And they've thrown him in there. And I think it's an award-worthy movie. It really is. So I'm glad he's there. But now the others aren't a surprise at all. Do you think Joaquin, you'll get to it, I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but if you think Joaquin is an actual lock to win?
I think so, yeah. Like, I always thought that my locks were De Niro, Joaquin, and Adam Driver. Those are my three locks for this category. De Niro, I'm not sure anymore, because we're going to talk about the SAGs later, and he's also not nominated there. But Joaquin, I think it's a two-way race between Joaquin and Adam Driver. I think they are the two. I think it might go Adam Driver's way but then again, the Joker's been making some gains here, and we're going to talk about director and picture as well, as coming up very soon. Yeah. I agree with you in regards to surprise and snub. Christian Bale for Ford versus Ferrari. Look, he's terrific in the movie, but I always thought that the thing that was going to stand in the way of him getting a nomination was that both he and Matt Damon were both going for that lead category nom.
They clashed. Yeah,
exactly. I thought that was. Well, they were just going to, knock each other out of the race. Clearly, it really does seem like that hasn't had any effect whatsoever, and which is kind of surprising to me, because I think what we're seeing now, especially with Christian Bale's nomination, is perhaps a change to the way the but voters, whether it be from the Hollywood Foreign Press or whoever, are kind of changing the way they're looking at things in regards to campaigning and such. And it's really, really great to see that Christian Bale is getting that nomination. He could easily as well have gotten a supporting turn, just in the way that, things happen for his character, so to say, in the movie. But yeah, it was really great to see that he did get a nomination for the film, because he is terrific in the movie. And the whole Robert De Niro thing, I was really bummed out that he didn't get a nomination. I do remember saying, though, that when we talked about lead actor in our last podcast, that there was a possibility that because De Niro gave such a quiet performance, especially compared to the bombast of his other supporting characters in that movie, there could be a chance that those supporting lead roles, there's always a chance that they can be left on the wayside, because when you compare to what Adam Driver does or what Joaquin Phoenix does, even what Christian Bale does with his very kind of expressive way that he does his performances as well, that Robert De Niro can be left on the wayside. But what you said as well in regards to his history with the Hollywood foreign press, that's a really kind of interesting a take on the whole thing as well. But we're going to talk about SAGs later, and he was also left out in the SAG nomination. So clearly, there's something going on there. Yeah, definitely a surprise. There's something going on there in regards to whether, I don't know, it's just the performance itself. A lot of people just weren't, getting into. Maybe it was the whole de-aging thing that people weren't really into as well. Maybe the supporting turns by Pesci and Pacino were just kind of like overtook the whole film, which I can see happening as well. But for me, I just found it really disappointing because the film went for 3 hours. De Niro was on the screen for the majority of that time, and he was just terrific. I think it's one of the best performances he's given in a long time, and it's just a shame that he's not getting those nominations.
Let's not forget and overlook Antonio Banderas in Pain and Glory too. That's a pretty outstanding performance, and sometimes awards get given to people for a body of work.
Yep.
So he's been around a very long time, as you know, and been in some pretty awesome films.
He has.
People love him. He's a foreign. He's not American, so the foreign press. You never know. He could sneak in as one of the surprises. There's usually one or two little upsets at the Globes, and if I was going to pick an upset, this would be the category for Antonio, I think. That's
a really interesting prediction there. If that happens, it will just turn the whole race upside down, I think. Because I did say I thought that he would get a nomination come Oscar time. Win, I wasn't confident in, but that would be something else if he gets a win in the drama category as well. That'll be something else right there.
Well, it's a tough category, like the girls.
Yep.
It's tough, but I just wanted to mention I've got like a bit of a feeling about Antonio surprising everybody.
A bit of award season intuition. Okay, very good, very good. Okay, now let's move over to Best Director. So the nominees are Joon-ho Bong for Parasite, Sam Mendes for 1917, Todd Phillips for Joker, Martin Scorsese for The Irishman, and Quentin Tarantino for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Shane, what surprise did you pick up from this category?
Maybe because it's a foreign film, I don't know. But Parasite, a little bit of a surprise. But him getting a nomination, Bong Joon-ho, for Parasite, I do believe that makes his Oscar chances skyrocket, which is great. To narrow it down to 5 movies, there's such an array to pick from. I like it. Now, 1917, you've seen, I have not, unfortunately.
Yep.
Is it worthy of the praise it is getting?
Yeah, look, as a technical achievement, it's actually rather terrific. As for people who don't know, it's a World War I film. It's like a man on a mission movie, and it's shot in one take. It's not really shot in one take. It gives the illusion that it is. There's some cuts here and there. I mean, you can't do a whole movie in one take. I think it's been attempted before with Russian Ark, but usually when productions of this scale do it, you have edits here or there. But it is a terrific movie, and it's done so without sacrificing story, and I think that's what's really important about this film. And Sam Mendes, he's had a really interesting career. He was on the did stuff on the stage as a stage director for a long time. Yeah. First movie off the bat, American Beauty, wins everything. Since then, hasn't been nominated for a single... Actually, not true. Golden Globes, he has been nominated for Revolutionary Road. And I think it was another movie as well. Could have been Road to Perdition. I'm not 100%.
Both good movies.
Yeah, both really good movies. He's a terrific director. And I think this movie really establishes him as like kind of like a technical director in the vein of kind of like a Christopher Nolan. And I think a lot of people might do comparisons to Dunkirk in that way. But to me, Dunkirk is a much more superior movie, but that's just like subjective, of course. But yeah, he does do a terrific stuff with that film. What I really was surprised, though, in regards to this category is that Todd Phillips got a nod for Joker, because it seemed to me for a long time that the story was that voters loved Joaquin Phoenix's performance,
But not the movie.
But not the movie, not the director. And to see that, and we're going to talk later in regards to the drama category, that Joker got a nomination there, and Todd Phillips as well got a nomination for the Joker. That was really a big surprise to me. Shane, do you think that perhaps there's people, I don't know if it's a Hollywood foreign press thing, it could be or could it just be an overall thing in regards to maybe even Oscars, that there could be a chance that Todd Phillips could be in for an Oscar nomination?
No, he won't be nominated. You'll get Noah Baumbach take his place for Marriage Story. That's my biggest snub for this category. Don't get me wrong, I love Joker, saw it a couple of times. I think his direction is very good. I love the camera angles and the way he told the story. But no, it's a surprise that he's there. But then not a surprise, again, it's the Globes. But he won't. I don't think he'll be in the mix for an Oscar. We'll have those four as well as Noah, I think.
My snub was Greta Gerwig for Little Women.
Well, she'll take Bong's position in the Oscars if he... I don't know. I don't know. He's more so unlikely to get an Oscar director nod because his film will be nominated for foreign, maybe. I'm not sure.
I disagree. I think he's one of my locks for director. Yeah. Okay. I think so. I think he's. I mean, he's really.
Who misses out? Sam Mendes.
Well, when we talk about our director's predictions in around 10 minutes, I'll let you know.
Yeah,
I'll let you know. But I think he is a lock. I think for me, there's a few locks, and he's definitely one of them. And the Greta Gerwig thing, I want to touch on later as well because she's also in my predictions in regards to Oscar nominees. But before that, let's go finish off Golden Globes by talking about the best comedy category in regards to film. So, musical or comedy. So the nominees are Dolomite Is My Name, Jojo Rabbit, Knives Out, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Rocket Man. There's a lot of surprises here. Shane, which one really stood out for you?
Rocket Man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that good. I mean, it's good, but I don't think it's the best picture good. It survives by its lead actor.
Yep.
Yeah, that's my biggest surprise.
I mean, my biggest surprise, and I've already touched upon it, is that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was considered a comedy, but, what can you do with regards to that? But
I've already agreed with you on that one. I know what you mean.
And Rocket Man, like you said before, it came out so early. We're talking about, like, March, April. And, films like that, we have seen films like had released early make their way into awards consideration, but that film especially came out early. I think it also could come down to the fact that because Bohemian Rhapsody did so well, and a lot of people were actually saying Rocket Man is better than Bohemian Rhapsody, maybe that's sticking to people's heads as well. And it definitely has to do with Taron Egerton's performance, and it just the way that they are actually campaigning for the movie now. You got Elton John out there with his memoir, and Dexter Fletcher and Taron Egerton are doing like Q&A screenings. I think they're doing a really smart job of getting that film back in the minds of voters. I don't think it's going to break like into the top 10 whatsoever in regards to like Oscar nominations of Best Picture, but I definitely think that Taron Egerton getting nominations now for his performance and Rocket Man getting like a Golden Globe nom as well. This is saying there's momentum behind this film now, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see come Oscar time exactly what categories this film gets nominated in, because it was a very kind of like fantastical kind of production as well, with all the dance sequences and music and what have you. It could be a possibility maybe for some craft nominations as well.
I think so, and they haven't stopped campaigning. You say that Dexter and Taron are out there doing Q&As. I think they've been doing it ever since April or whenever it was released, and great timing. There's a tour happening at the moment from Elton John, and it's also coincides with the book, as you say. But this is a category that I don't know. I think Once Upon a Time to me is a lock. However, a lot of people better judge than me, like Jojo Rabbit. They think it's amazing. Dolomite Is My Name is terrific. I loved it, but is it a Best Picture winner? I'm not so sure. Eddie's up there as a definite award contender, but I don't know about the film itself. And Knives Out is there because it's been a big hit in recent times, it's got an all-star cast, and it's perfect for the Golden Globes.
Yeah.
They want the actors there, to be in the mix.
Yeah.
So, Rocketman, to me, I am very surprised, but not surprised again. I'm glad it's there, but I don't think it'll win.
Any films you wish were there? Any snubs for this category?
No real snubs. No, I don't think so. It's been a weird year for musical and comedies. Again, Cats is kind of like a snub. They would have seen it, the Hollywood Foreign Press. So for it not to gain anything is kind of a surprise, because I just really do think that is a true Golden Globes movie. But I can't disagree with these 5 movies. They're all good. Some better than others, but I do believe Once Upon a Time in Hollywood's got this easy.
I just want to say once again that Blinded by the Light is not getting his just due, but I'm not surprised it didn't get nominated. I had no illusions whatsoever that it would get nominated for anything, but if you talk about music or comedies, that's a combination of both, and it's just such a terrific film, and it's just a shame that it couldn't break through like I hoped it would when I saw it.
It's a great movie, I totally agree, but I don't think personally I don't think it's up to the 5 that are here.
Let's move over now to the last 5, which is Best Picture Drama. So, 1917, The Irishman, Joker, Marriage Story, and The Two Popes. Shane, surprises here. I think there's one film here I think you and I might agree on in regards to it being surprised. What do you think?
I don't know. Are you alluding to a Joker or The Two Popes? Because
I'm saying Joker because I actually love the Joker. When my top 10 films comes out, it's going to be really high on that list. I love the film. But I was just always under the impression that there is no way there was going to get anything outside of Joaquin Phoenix. And especially the amount of films that just has such great critical kind of momentum behind it. Joker got really good reviews, don't get me wrong, but it also had a lot of detractors as well, and not to mention all the things that Todd Phillips said in the press as well in the lead up to the film, and all the controversy surrounding everything in regards to the depiction of the film of gun violence, etc., etc. I was just really surprised to see that. Happy surprise. I was beyond happy to see that it is getting its just due. A surprise either way.
Yeah, The Two Popes kind of surprises me a little bit because I would have thrown in Bombshell.
Mm-hmm.
But the Joker, I loved it as much as you. I think I really did. But it is kind of a surprise that it says. I really don't think it's going to get an Oscar nomination. I doubt it. Less than they might go with the whole 10 picks this year. Who knows? Yeah. But generally, they go with 8 or 9. So my biggest surprise is just no Bombshell. But I haven't seen The Two Popes. To me, I thought it was more of an essay on acting with the 2 leads, Jonathan Pryce and Anthony Hopkins. So must be more of a crowd pleaser than I think it is. And 1917, from what I hear, totally deserves to be there, even though I haven't seen it.
I'll tell you what, man. Netflix...
And can I quickly just say Marriage Story? When I finished watching it, I had no faults with it. Absolutely no faults whatsoever. So that's a huge thing for me. I think that's my pick.
I mean, you mentioned Marriage Story, Two Popes, we talked Irishman, Dolomite is My Name. I mean, Netflix is just killing it this award season.
They've been campaigning so much, apparently, in the US, so it's worked.
Yeah, it has worked, and there's some they've been making some good films. They release a lot of original film content for years. Not all of it works. In fact, I'll probably say the majority of it doesn't. But when it comes to these kind of movies, these kind of Oscar campaign movies, Roma had a really good run last year as well. I mean, it's just really surprising to see just how far they've come along in the last few years as a powerhouse of narrative filmmaking, where the multiplexes have become the haven for kind of the franchise film and the superhero movie. Here comes Netflix to do the character films that we used to love in the 90s and 70s, etc. One film I'd say I was kind of bummed out didn't get much love in regards to awards at the Golden Globes was Ford versus Ferrari. It's one of my favourite films of the year, and I thought that film could have been primed for drama, the drama category, and you could have split those lead actors with Matt Damon in lead and Christian Bale in supporting. Of course, that didn't happen, and I'm beyond happy that Christian Bale got the nomination for the film. But I was hoping that movie would get a drama nod, especially considering what the film's about and the way it's executed and the stars involved with it. That's a Golden Globe film if I've ever seen one. But yeah, that's the only thing I can think of in regards to that category. Still very surprised by the Joker though. So let's just actually, is there anything you want to say in regards to Golden Globes? Anything else that you took from those nominees before we move on to SAGs?
Not really. I will back you up though. I am surprised Ford versus Ferrari didn't get more nominations than it did, because it is a pretty brilliant movie. And again, I dropped the two popes for it. I said Bombshell, but now I think about it, Ford versus Ferrari is more of a Golden Globes movie maybe, and more of a solid filmmakers movie. When having seen Bombshell, it sort of has its ups and downs in it. No, not really. No, I don't think. I think Us, should have got a little bit more love than it did. Not just Lupita, but I think screenplay and so forth. But no, I'm looking forward to it. It's almost like expect the unexpected with the Golden Globe Awards, but nothing I can think of offhand that I want to mention anymore about the Globes.
Let's move over now to the SAG Awards. They came out not far, like maybe a few days or a couple of days after the Golden Globe Awards did. And once again, we're seeing same names popping up. We're seeing the same names not showing up at all. So let's go through some of these categories. Let's start off with Outstanding Performance by a Female Actor in a Supporting Role. You got Laura Dern for Marriage Story, Scarlett Johansson for Jojo Rabbit, Nicole Kidman for Bombshell, Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers, and Margot Robbie for Bombshell. Shane, what surprises did you get from this category?
No surprises. The SAG's got this one right, I think. Again, Jennifer Lopez to me was more of a lead, but apparently not. I don't know. There was Margot Robbie was really good, and then people are saying to me that she should have got nominated for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but in Bombshell, she's playing a made-up character as well.
Yeah.
Even though it's based on a true story, she's playing a character that didn't exist, and she's outstanding. She has one particular scene where it's really emotional, and she's an amazing actress. So I've got no problem with these five.
I think the most surprising thing for me was Nicole Kidman for Bombshell, because it always seemed like in regards to that film, it was either Charlize Theron or Margot Robbie that was always mentioned in regards to awards, and people forgetting the Oscar winner that's in the centre of the movie as well, which was Nicole Kidman. You've seen the film. Do you think she got the SAG nomination? You reckon there's enough there to maybe even get an Oscar nomination? Maybe a thing where both her and Margot can get nominated in the same category?
Oh, it's touch and go. If I had to pick one of the two, I would go with Margot, but Nicole's very strong in it. The three leads are amazing together. I think she deserves to be there, definitely.
And any snubs? Because I'm going to once again say I'm kind of disappointed that Florence Pugh didn't get anything for Little Women, but it does seem like without getting that, maybe it might be more of a... would it be a BAFTA thing? I don't think so, actually. No, it wouldn't.
So she is British, right?
She is, yeah. But I don't know if there's a category, because it is very much more of an American film than a British film, I imagine.
Yeah, no, that is true. And I agree again with Florence Pugh in Little Women, but that is just such a crossover of great performances all round.
Yeah.
I think Saoirse Ronan really is going to be the only standout there.
Yeah.
I like Florence a lot, but I can't sort of put her in there instead of Nicole Kidman.
Let's move over now to Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Supporting Role. Jamie Foxx for Just Mercy, Tom Hanks for A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, Al Pacino for The Irishman, Joe Pesci for The Irishman, and Brad Pitt, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So 4 of the names here were also nominated for the Golden Globe. The one exception is Jamie Foxx for Just Mercy. I had that as my surprise. I imagine that'll be your surprise as well, Shane.
Yeah, it's exactly it. Yeah, that's my surprise. Definitely. I hear it's good. I haven't seen it. As far as I know, it hasn't got a release date in Australia, but I am looking forward to it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out like March or April here in the States, because I think it's in Australia. Sorry, because I think it is a film that's more geared toward an American audience. It's like a legal drama film. It's a true story about a young defense attorney who helps out a guy that's in prison. That's a character that Jamie Foxx plays, and it has a lot of things. It talks about the justice system in America and race relations, etc. So no doubt it touched a nerve with voters, which is why Jamie Foxx is in there, and he's also a former Oscar winner and a nominee.
He's amazing, and I mean, Tom Hanks's Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood is exactly the same. It's more generated to American audiences, I would imagine.
Yeah. And the snub, I guess, would be Anthony Hopkins for The Two Popes, considering he's been a very consistent name in regards to the nomination. But we've talked about him a few times now, so we'll just move on to the next category, which is... where is it? And it is right here. Outstanding performance by a female actor in a leading role. So you have Cynthia Erivo for Harriet, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Lupita Nyong'o for Us, Charlize Theron for Bombshell, and Renee Zellweger for Judy. What do you think of those nominees?
Fantastic. Again, I'm hanging to see Harriet. I think Cynthia is supposed to be amazing in it. No doubt she's getting all these nominations. But got to say, cheers to Lupita. This is what I was saying earlier. I'm so glad the SAGs are throwing her in here. That means the options are still a chance for an Oscar nom because she's in the mix, like people will be reminded how great she is.
So just like the previous category, got 4 out of 5 names are also nominated for the Golden Globe. The only exception was Lupita Nyong'o, who got here for Us. So left on the wayside would be Saoirse Ronan. So for Little Women. But don't forget as well, a name that I was surprised didn't appear on here was Awkwafina for The Farewell. And from what I haven't seen the movie yet. I know you have, and many people have. She's been a very consistent name when it's come up to not only the quality of her performance, but the possibility of nominations as well. I think, I always imagined that Awkwafina would be like maybe in the top 3 of the slots if you're going to rank them in regards to lock possibilities. But clearly, with Lupita Nyong'o getting in there now, it could be a bit of a tussle between Lupita, Saoirse Ronan, and Awkwafina for that 5th spot. What do you think, Shane?
Yeah, I hope so in a sense, because I think The Farewell needs some kind of recognition. It's a really incredible movie, and Awkwafina, who previously was really only known for her slapstick comedy and rap music, she's got such a great role in it, and she's strong performance. But I do believe it's been nominated for like an ensemble award for the SAGs, so it'll still be there. It'll still be in people's minds, with that nomination at the very least. And I don't think it's out of the question when it comes around to Oscar nominations that she could get one. I hope she does. She totally deserves it. And you need to see it, Matt. I thought you had one now.
I know. I got so many movies I'm trying to plow through right now. That's definitely one of them.
I understand.
Okay, let's move over to outstanding performance by a male actor in a leading role. And I'm going to say that perhaps this could be as close a lock, all these names in a category, just looking at the momentum behind them. And I'm going to read them out now. Christian Bale for Ford versus Ferrari, Leonardo DiCaprio for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Adam Driver for Marriage Story, Taron Egerton for Rocketman, and Joaquin Phoenix for Joker. Once again, Robert De Niro left in the cold. Look, so there's a couple of names that you can easily put in there. So Robert De Niro, one of them, Eddie Murphy, another one for Dolomite Is My Name. I do find it interesting, Shane, that outside, we were talking before, Golden Globes, I was mentioning just how Netflix is killing it. But in the SAGs, Netflix isn't having a bigger presence as they usually did. Outside of, say, The Irishman for Pacino and Pesci, De Niro isn't there, Eddie Murphy isn't there, none of the Two Popes actors are there either. Do you think maybe in regards to the Screen Actors Guild, they're rewarding more of the traditional cinematic offerings as compared to Netflix offerings?
I don't know if that's the case, because these are peers. These are the Screen Actors Guild, so these are peers voting for peers. and people love Eddie Murphy. And that's just one example. And I think, especially in the last 2 years, actors are not frowning upon streaming films as much as they used to. And if anything, they're not going to anymore after Scorsese and Marriage Story. And these movies are really getting highlighted. So, no, I don't know if that is the case. I just think it comes down to 5 actors. And look at the 5 they've picked. That everyone seems to love Christian Bale as I do.
Yep.
So he's the surprise. But he's, again, not a surprise. I would have put Eddie Murphy in there. But Christian Bale's so strong in everything he does. And this was no exception. I think he's... And I'm glad it was a box office hit, because people have seen it, and they can, people who are hopefully listening who have seen it know what I'm talking about. He's so great in it. So I don't think that's the case when it comes to Netflix and streaming, that because there's peers against voting for peers, and I don't think they're going to be against streaming movies these days, especially with this year's nominees.
I think when it comes to Christian Bale and Taron Egerton now, they are firmly in the race. I always thought that maybe Adam Sandler might have some momentum behind him, because Uncut Gems has just been getting such great notices, and so has he as well. I think he's fallen way behind the pack. I can't see him doing anything anymore. And
no Antonio.
No Antonio as well, that's correct. It's always competitive every year, and I think like this year it's really hard for me to kind of peg down what that 4 and 5 slot's going to be, because like I said, last time we spoke, I thought De Niro was in there for sure, and he's really out of the race as well. Could change when it comes to Oscars. Maybe he's going to get a little love there, I don't know, but man,
I think so. I think you will.
I mean, it's really interesting how a week can like change everything though. Let's move on now to the ensemble reward. So that's outstanding performance by a cast in a motion picture. So we have Bombshell, The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Parasite. And that's a real surprise there, Parasite. And I think they really having that film be nominated for its ensemble cast by the SAGs really says something about the momentum it has going into Oscars. I think not only is it a lock in regards to a director, but I think Best Picture is very much a possibility as well as foreign film. Of the 5, fine actors associated in all of them, but the one movie I had a problem with in regards to performance by a cast in a motion picture was Jojo Rabbit.
Yeah.
And the one name in particular I thought gave one of the worst performances of the year was Taika Waititi. I thought he was really over the top, and every single time he came on screen, when he plays this kind of like fantastical version, over the top version of Hitler, it really just knocked me for a loop every single time. I couldn't really get my head back in the game again. And it's really a shame, because there's some really great casts out there, like Knives Out, for example. That was an excellent ensemble cast, and every single person in that film, no matter how big or small the role they had, really delivered.
Where's Little Women?
Little Women, another one, exactly right. And there's so many films that could have gotten that slot that Jojo Rabbit has. Every year there's a film or two that kind of befuddles me in regards to how much praise it gets. And this year I think that definitely belongs to Jojo Rabbit. Do you agree as well in regards to ensemble cast, Jojo Rabbit being a strange pick for a nomination?
Yeah, I agree with you on what you said about Taika regarding Jojo and Jojo in general. I'm not going to make this a hate-a-thon towards Jojo Rabbit, but let it be said that I did not really like it much at all.
No.
Only certain aspects to it. So yeah, delete Jojo from this category. And where's Knives Out? Where's Little Women? Honestly, I'm happy with the 4 of them. So you can't have 6, but either Little Women or Knives Out really needs to be in that position. And Bombshell, I'm okay with. Like, it's really about the 3 main actresses, but there are some smaller roles involved, including the Murdochs, which Rupert Murdoch's played by Malcolm McDowell.
Yep.
In a small but pivotal role. But yeah, no, I agree with you on Jojo. Little Women of all movies and Knives Out, like they're being advertised on their ensemble. Yep. Their cast. So Parasite, I'm happy about. although it is definitely a lock for best foreign film, best picture. If they can put Roma in, like they did last year for the Oscars, Parasite's going to be there. Screenplay also, I think it'll probably go in. I don't know about director. I know you're a lock there, but I don't know yet.
I'm going to officially say now, by the way, that I am firmly off the Avengers Endgame bandwagon.
Yes.
So, as you remember last time, there was SAG Awards. Black Panther was a surprise nominee. The Golden Globes Awards also had Black Panther in there as well. I thought that the possibility that if those two bodies could have Avengers Endgame, that the Oscars could follow suit, but I'm way off it right now. It's got
I tried to tell you.
I know, but I wanted to I just wanted to make sure I had my finger in that pie just in case it was warming up. But in this case, it is a cold pie. It's going to be thrown out of the window. Look, it's already got the award for the most profitable film of all time. So it has nothing to sulk about right there. But yeah, I'm firmly off the Avengers Endgame bandwagon, and not really surprised by it, but at the same time, I was kind of interested to see what would happen in regards to Disney and what they would do with that movie. Clearly, not much. Okay, let's move on now. So it's prediction time. So we are now at the director category. Just one more show. We'll be talking about best film. Look how time flies, Shane.
Yeah, exactly. It has gone quick, but it's good in a way, because I hope people are enjoying this, and our minds do change around a little bit, and things can happen overnight, as you say. So at least we're enjoying helping people if they're going to go into a category where they bet on what's going to win. Let's hope we're helping people.
And I have a feeling that you and I are going to be talking about the same name, so let's go through this right now. What's your first pick for prediction for directing?
Quentin Tarantino, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. No other explanation there.
So he's been nominated for an Oscar for directing twice. He's won 2 Oscars for writing. So this will most probably be his third. And I think this film, more than the others nominated before, is the strongest possibility of him winning the Oscar. And it really is a great film. I mean, it's one of the best films, definitely in his filmography, one of the best films of the year. And I think, to me, what a lot of people liked about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is that Hateful Eight was a fine movie, but I think it just got a little too much, and a lot of people kind of felt that in regards to how Tarantino it was, if I can use his word in that way. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood really kind of throttled it back a bit, kind of like had more of a kind of steady pace to it. It was more of a mature work, and especially in regards to his directing. I mean, he transformed Los Angeles, like modern day Los Angeles, to the Los Angeles of 1969. He let the dialogue breathe. He directed some great performances in there as well. And he tackled one of the darkest days in Hollywood, but he did it in a way that was, I think a lot of people had a feeling, fear that it might be done in a sort of classless way, but I think he really handled it really well. And just all those things combined, I really do think that there's a possibility that he can win the Oscar this time.
Yeah, I think so. He's going to have, as we're going to talk about, some stiff competition, but it's more accessible than The Hateful Eight was, and it's relatable to so many voters, I would assume. So, yeah, I think he's might not win, but he's definitely a lock to get nominated.
I think his best competition in the category is my next pick, which is Martin Scorsese for The Irishman. So he's won for The Departed. He's been nominated as a director 7 times before. And The Irishman, I think, Shane, is his most ambitious work yet. And that says something considering Scorsese's filmography. What I really liked about the film and what he did with it is that, look, he's done gangster films as well. Everyone knows about Goodfellas and Casino, what have you. But The Irishman really felt like a different kind of gangster movie. It felt more like a reflection or a meditation on the genre than anything else. And I also think that it will be awesome to see him holding the Oscar after all the stuff he went through in not only trying to make the film, but the whole nonsense about what he was talking about with Marvel films and the reaction he got in regards to that. It'll be perfect bookend in regards to his debate on the whole issue of him holding the Oscar gong on the stage while Avengers Endgame gets nominated for maybe visual effects only. I think that'll be a great way to end the debate there.
Well, he's my next pick too, so I can't add to that other than, yes, if he did win, I would love to him to go up to that podium and say, I'd like to thank Kevin Feige. Imagine that, although that's never going to happen. Definitely Scorsese for The Irishman is my next pick as well. Can't not get nominated, put it that way.
No, I don't think so either. What next is on your list, Shane?
All right, so number 3 would be Sam Mendes, 1917. And this is me going blind because I have not seen it yet, but from all reports, including yourself, friend Blake, and other people I know who have seen it, definitely as a movie that would have been hard to direct. I think this would have been a tricky one, and some of the feats I believe he pulls off is right up for the Oscars pathway of why they nominate movies. So I will put him in my next... and he should have got nominated for Skyfall anyway.
Yeah.
So there you go. So. See, there you go. He can get nominated for 1917, but he should have got nominated for Skyfall.
Yeah, and I also have him on my list as well. I already spoke about the movie and what Sam Mendes did with that film as well. One thing I didn't mention before is that the inspiration of the movie was from his grandfather. His grandfather served in World War One, and when Sam and his family used to visit his grandfather would tell him all the stories from the war. So the movie is actually dedicated to the memory of his grandfather. So not only is it a very kind of technical achievement for Sam Mendes, it's a very personal story as well. And I think in the... lately we've seen actually a lot of movies made about World War One. The pantheon of those films is getting bigger and bigger, and it's one of the best ones from that time. It is a terrific film. I can't wait for you to see it, Shane, so we can talk about it some more in future episodes. Because I also
is it anything like Gallipoli?
It's really interesting you said that. So imagine the last 10 minutes of Gallipoli where Mel Gibson has to run across the front lines and in the trenches to hand that message over to
never forget it.
Yeah, that is pretty much the gist of the film. The main character in 1917 is given direct orders by Colin Firth, who plays the general, that he has to go across the front lines, across a very far length to go to where a certain battalion is ready to go into German territory. But what they don't know is that they're falling into a trap. And so it's up to him to try to get there. You can feel the tension, you can feel the momentum, you can feel the unease throughout the whole film. And the way they did it with the one-shot kind of gimmick as well really benefits the story, doesn't take away from it. I think sometimes you see directors get a little flashy with their craft. It can take away from the story that's on the screen. I think the two things really merge well together, and that says something about Sam Mendes as a director. He did a really good job, not only with the technical side of things, but also in regards to the story side of things as well, and it will have an impact with people when those end credits roll. Cannot wait. So next on my list is Joon-ho Bong for Parasite. I already talked a bunch about him already. He's got those 2 Golden Globe noms. And Parasite is such a great film. Did you see it at the Sydney Film Festival as well, Shane?
Oh, no, I didn't see it until fairly recently because I missed it, and then it got released, and then it sort of disappeared, and then it started playing like one session a day.
Yeah.
At our Dendy in Sydney. So as you know, for listeners, I don't live in Sydney. I live outside of Sydney. So I had to see it on my own time, but I'm very glad that I did. And no, it took me a long time to avoid spoilers as well.
So, as you know, it's a terrific film. The changes in tone and genre are just masterfully done. It's a socially and politically relevant film, but it does so without kind of like banging you over the head with it. It does in really kind of subtle, kind of really like ways that make you really think after those end credits roll. It's a movie to me that you can watch over and over again and pick up new things from it. Terrific performances, terrific craftsmanship, and also Joon-ho Bong is out there on TV shows. It was on Jimmy Fallon like earlier this week, late last week. which is weird because his English isn't the best, so he had a translator with him. So
he has translators.
yes,
Yeah.
so it's an interesting dynamic there, especially with Jimmy Fallon being a very kind of excitable talk show host as well. But clearly Fallon's a big fan of the movie as well. So he's out there, he's talking about the film, he's pushing it. So I really do think that he's going to get a nomination. Shane, what's next on your list?
Well, this is what a person I recently spoke about when we were talking about Golden Globes, and that's Noah Baumbach for Marriage Story. He's my pick for a director nod. I love the film so much, and partly based on his history of being married to Jennifer Jason Leigh, quote unquote, of course, but apparently so. He's also now married to and has a child with Greta Gerwig, who I might or might not bring up shortly when regarding Little Women director. But this is a perfect movie to me. Everything about this movie is just simply 10 out of 10. I loved it so much. It affected me. I'm not married. I don't have children, but it ripped my heart out. And it shouldn't be called Marriage Story. It should be called Divorce Story. But that said, the direction, as well as his two leads, and then his two co-stars as well, Ray Liotta and Laura Dern, among others, just a perfect movie. So I'm a big Noah fan, actually. He's done some really good stuff in the past, but this is the top of the list.
I've recently watched the film as well, maybe around a week or so ago, and I loved it as well. It's what I found really interesting about the movie, though, is that it's a film about professionals working in the entertainment industry. You have Adam Driver's character, of course, based on Noah Baumbach. He's not so much a film director, but talked about more of a stage director. And then you have Scarlett Johansson's character, who's trying to get back into Hollywood, and kind of like the pressures that kind of brings on their marriage. It is a terrific movie. Do you think, though, there could be a possibility in regards to his nomination for director that they might look at him more as a screenwriter than as a filmmaker? Do you know where I'm kind of getting there? Sometimes as writer-directors, they get the noms for their writing or the accolades for their writing more than their directing. Like Quentin Tarantino, for example, I talked before. Yeah. His 2 Oscar wins for writing, not so much for directing. Do you think there could be a possibility here where Noah could get the writing nod and not the directing one?
Oh, for sure. No, I agree with that. The writing is superior. It's really, really good writing. I think his direction is pretty amazing too, though. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, he's had such a checkered history of previous films. This is the only one that really stands out as a directing high point. Even though I liked Frances Ha and Mistress America and Greenberg and The Squid and the Whale, and even Margot at the Wedding was very, very good. This takes the cake when it comes to his directing. But you're right. I mean, you scratched the surface there that it could be more of a screenplay thing for Noah rather than directing, and that's where Bond would slip in as a director, I think.
Possibly a screenplay win. I mean, we don't talk about the writing categories here, but if there's anyone that's a front runner, I think Noah Baumbach could be for that category.
Oh, he'll get nominated, and so will Quentin. It's almost like the usual suspects for this one, where we keep repeating the same movies, but that's just the way it is. It seems like, I don't know. I just think that so highly of the movie, I would be a little bit surprised if he didn't get a director nomination.
So my final pick is a name you mentioned already, Greta Gerwig. She was previously nominated for Lady Bird and with Little Women, which is a film she recently did. It's the latest adaptation of Louisa May Alcott's novel. So many adaptations done before. Confession time, this is the first Little Women movie I've seen. I haven't seen the 95 version. I haven't seen anything whatsoever. So I went in there not knowing what type of changes there could be. I read that there could be possibility of differences in regards to what Greta Gerwig did with the novel. I had no idea. All I do know is that I loved this movie. I thought it was a beautiful film, great craftsmanship, terrific performances. It's a modern adaptation of a classic story done very well. And Greta Gerwig is really proving herself to be a fine director. And but outside of her ability of a director, which I think should be enough to get her a nomination, I think something that was very distinct after the SAG, sorry, not the SAG, but the Golden Globe Award nominations, was the lack of female filmmakers in the directing category, and there was a lot of huff about that on social media, especially. And the subject of female filmmakers is one that over the last couple of years has become more popular and more debated as well. And I'm really curious in regards to the Academy itself. We've talked about in previous years how the Academy is getting younger, it's getting more diverse, and as a result of that, I'm just really curious as to whether perhaps voters are most likely to vote with a social conscious in regards to diversity representation as well of who they nominate with their vote. So I think Greta Gerwig could be a possibility to sneak in there above all else because of her talent and because of terrific filmmaking and because Little Women, in my opinion, is one of the best films of 2019. But also because that I think perhaps they will want representation of a female filmmaker in there, and I think Greta Gerwig is definitely the top of the heap when it comes to that. Shane, what do you think of that theory?
Well, she's my next one as well. So she rounds off my 5 picks. I agree with you. They love to really have the female representation, and to me it has to be worthy representation, not just because she's a female, and she is. I mean, it's an amazing movie, but I'm still getting over the fact this is the first Little Women you've ever seen.
It is.
It's been TV series.
I know.
There was even a Little Women movie released earlier this year on a very small independent distributor. Mm-hmm. There was Gillian Anderson's, our own Australian director's Gillian Armstrong's version of it with Winona Ryder many years ago. So, yeah, I'm in shock, Matt, but that's okay. I love Greta. I always have. She's as an actress, and then now she's moved into directing with Lady Bird, and now this. It's just the beginning of her directing career. She's amazing. I've got a couple of honourable mentions, which has a female in the mix, but to round out my top 5, I can't agree more. Greta Gerwig.
What any other names you want to put forward in regards to maybe outside chances?
Very outside chance, and I love bringing it up because it was a very good movie. Is director James Gray for Ad Astra?
Nice.
I mean, it was a good movie, well directed, well acted. So I know it's not going to happen, but I really did want to remind people that it is worth checking out. I'll put in Bong Joon-ho because I didn't have him in my 5, and we've already spoken how great that movie is. So I agree with you on that. And the final one is the director of A Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Yeah.
Now, this is one that could sneak up on a few people. I don't know, maybe not, because it is incredible. It is such an incredible film. Celine Sciamma, I hope I'm saying her name right, French, but she wrote it, directed it, and it is a solid, unforgettable movie, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. So there are 3 out there. 2 out of the 3 are out there. Not honourable mentions, but I really wanted to bring them up.
One name I wanted to bring up as well, and it probably won't happen, but it is curious how a filmmaker like Terrence Malick has a movie coming out called A Hidden Life. So it's based on a conscientious...
Know nothing about it.
So it's a new film based on a true story of a conscientious objector during World War II. So he was like an Austrian man named, excuse me if I get the pronunciation right to all the Austrians out there listening, Franz Jagerstratter. So he pretty much refused to go along and join the Nazis when his whole town, his whole country was doing so. And because of that, he got killed and he was martyred. And decades later, he actually became a saint in the Catholic Church because of it. And a lot of people are saying that this is Terrence Malick's one of his best films because I don't know how many Malick films you've seen, Shane. A lot of the time, it's not very much narrative filmmaking, and very almost like poetry. It kind of goes to lots of different places. The visuals are strong. The script isn't really there. He never really worked off a script. A lot of times in his movies, he just like wrote a few things on a piece of paper, got his cast to improvise, and had cameras in different places. Piece it all together, and voila, you have a movie. Some people like it, some people don't. But with A Hidden Life, this is more like a narrative kind of film, and he's actually got some of the strongest notices in his career. And he has been nominated previously. Tree of Life was the last time he did get nominated. And when we came to Tree of Life, that was a film that like went really quiet throughout award season. But when when it hit the Oscars, that's when it's got Best Film. That's when it got Best Director and all these other things as well. So I'm really curious to see if A Hidden Life goes through the same trajectory. Maybe it's too late now. Look, it's not coming out in Australia until like the 31st of January, and I'm pretty sure that it's not coming out in the States, at least until the end of the year as well. But, and everyone knows that Terrence Malick is incredibly press shy. He never goes out, doesn't do interviews or anything like that whatsoever. Didn't stop him from getting a nomination before, so I'm really interested to see whether this film will make a mark, or it's going to be a really, really, really late entry to the race, but it could be a possibility that it will make a mark in the award season.
Well, speaking of late entries, we haven't even mentioned Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, Richard
Jewell.
Yeah.
You know, who knows what's going to happen there. But, you know, and another contender that I personally didn't like, but you think he could be in the mix is Taika Waititi for JoJo. You know, the Academy might like that movie because it's a bit risque. But you know what? If Terrence Malick gets a nomination, Mike Flanagan should for Dr. Sleep. I love Dr. Sleep.
I love Dr. Sleep too. See, I was going to bring that up in regards to my snubs, but because I loved actually Rebecca Ferguson in that film, especially. I thought she was terrific, and
she was really good.
She should be nominated for something. Like, just give her just like But
it's your theory of horror again.
Yeah. It is. I mean, this year, actually, horror is one of my favorite genres, and I get to watch a lot of horror films. I get a lot of horror filmmakers reach out to me, and also distributors from the States and Australia as well. I think 2019 has been one of the strongest years in horror I've covered in a very long time. There's some really great films out there. They're not going to get nominated for anything, though. I think the genre is just still hasn't really kind of pierced the mainstream like people think it does. Like, once in a while you might get like some type of film like a Scream or The Ring, etc. But it's not like the 70s where horror films like, say, The Exorcist or even before that, Rosemary's Baby, for example, will get nominated for things. It just doesn't happen that much anymore, which is a shame. I mean, once in a while you have a Get Out, but even then his follow-up, Jordan Peele's follow-up, Us, seems to be,
Us was better to me than Get Out. And, I mean, followers of Matt's movie reviews will know that he's awesome when it comes to horror and adept and across everything. But if you're just listening to this podcast because you're an Oscar fan or an awards fan like we are, please, if you like horror, check out what Matt's got to say about horror films. He's one of the best.
I love horror movies, and it's just a shame that it seems like horror, in the same way as action films to a certain extent, gets treated like a second-class citizen when it comes to Oscar nominations and such. Because the craft is there, the performances are there, the filmmaking is there as well. Things get a little grisly at times, things get a little tense, but it doesn't mean the movies aren't as worthy as, say...
I think over time they'll cross over. We'll be surprised one year. There'll be... I mean, Hereditary really should have been nominated for a Best Picture. But, eventually something will come up. And I thought Dr. Sleep might have been that, but no. Something will come up. You watch Matt in the next year or two or maybe 3. There'll be a horror sort of like crossover where, like Us. I thought Us might have done it too, but we'll see. It won't be long now, I think.
Until then, Shane, where can people find your stuff online?
Oh, as always, if anyone's interested in interviews and red carpet photos and anything I've got to say about movies and all the pictures I see, including Netflix and cinema related, you can find me on Instagram or Twitter at @movie_analyst. So at @movie_analyst.
And for everyone else out there, you can find Matt's movie reviews at mattsmoviereviews.net. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Podbean, SoundCloud, and also check out my YouTube channel and Facebook and Twitter pages as well. Until next time, Shane, take care.
Not long now. Bye now.